So good afternoon, everybody. It looks like we're good to go. Welcome to the second webinar showcasing the winners of our 2018 Research Awards. I'm Alison Fenner, Executive Business Advisor at IAB Europe, and I'm going to host today's session. So a little background on the IAB Europe Research Awards, which I hope you're all familiar with. These recognise and celebrate the contribution made to the development of the industry by innovative research projects and the teams behind those projects. So today's webinar is going to share the winning case studies of the consumer attitudes and behaviours category. And then that involves Chelsea Horncastle from OMD EMEA presenting, and the digital advertising formats categories, where Paul Hardcastle from Oath is presenting. So really pleased to have them with us today. The webinar is going to last approximately 35 minutes, 20 minutes for presentations and a 10-minute Q&A. If you want to share the live presentation with your colleagues, the webinar recording is going to be available after the event. And all of these case studies are available on the IAB Europe website, and we encourage you to go along and have a look at those. So just in terms of communications during the event, there's a chat panel and a questions panel on the right-hand side of your screen. You can submit any technical queries in the chat panel and we'll respond to those. And you can submit questions for the panelists in the questions panel. Okay, so to formally introduce our presenters for today, Chelsea is Senior Product Innovation and Insights Manager at OMD EMEA, and Paul is Research Director at Oath. And we're going to kick off, first of all, with Chelsea to present OMD's Retail Revolution case study. Over to you, Chelsea.
Thanks, Alison. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, that's super, thank you.
Perfect. So I'm really excited to share our Retail Revolution study with you today. It's been a huge collaboration between multiple teams and disciplines at OMD EMEA, and we're very proud to be awarded an IAB Europe Research Award. Now, just to kick things off, I wanted to briefly touch upon how we define marketing applications of AI at OMD. To start, at the most developed so far, we have marketing with AI. So this is using AI as a tool. It typically happens behind the scenes for optimization and attribution. And marketing with AI has been developing quickly with the sophistication of data collection and management. We are now discovering hidden drivers of performance in terms of targeting and content and engagement. And this is really as a result of machine learning being integrated. Next is marketing of AI, so using AI as a channel. This has been fueled over the last few years with the launches of chatbot platforms such as Facebook Messenger and home voice assistants such as Google Home or Amazon Alexa. This is the application of AI to create a marketable consumer offering with AI technologies. Marketing of AI has opened up new experiences and ways to engage with consumers. But we're still in the early days of exploring and understanding how and where these AI services are accepted in our daily lives. And once marketing of AI is more developed and gains consumer acceptance, we will see marketing to AI. This is where people start to employ AI to make decisions on their behalf. So it becomes an audience in its own right. We are already seeing the beginning of marketing to AI in areas such as SEO, where machine learning algorithms make decisions on what information people see. So to bring this all together, we have AI is a tool currently, it's becoming a channel quickly, and it will soon be a customer. And this is really where the retail revolution started for us. We wanted to know more how marketing of AI was being developed. And when we first embarked on this research, at the beginning of 2017, the narratives around AI were very focused on the technological capability, mainly considering a few markets, so the US and a couple of other large ones. And we were really interested, but we were curious about how these figures would translate across different European markets. And we wanted to understand what the general public thought about AI. Did they understand it, accept it, or trust it. So what was a technical challenge was increasingly becoming a marketing challenge. And as a result, our goal for the retail revolution was to understand how AI was and would be affecting the way people buy goods and services in their day-to-day lives. Now, as the research involved in emerging technology, we used a mixed method approach, including qualitative explorative techniques and quantitative online survey, which had over 16,000 nationally representative respondents. We also worked really closely with Goldsmiths, University of London, to add an academic approach to the research and to be close to the latest developments arising in the field. The Retail Revolution study was a big undertaking covering 14 European markets, 19 retail sectors, and many different research approaches. And if we kind of look at our approach, it was really divided into 3 stages. The first stage was setting the scene. We did this through desk research, just seeing what other research had been done in retail and AI. And we conducted some initial experiments just to see how people were engaging with different chatbots and AI applications in retail. These formed our hypotheses, which went into the stage 2, which was the explorative phase. This is where we use qualitative research to really explore how retail AI was being adopted and where people thought it would go. So we used some ethnographic techniques to capture consumers' experiences and expectations. We also wanted to test the limits of AI being developed in retail. This was accomplished through a 2-day hackathon where we invited clients and our colleagues from different markets to come and actually start exploring different ways AI could be applied in retail. And at the end of this, 6 chatbots were created, and these went into a consumer workshop where the consumers tested and fed back on what they liked, didn't like, and how they could evolve in the future. And the last element of this exploring phase was also subject matter expert interviews, which provided us valuable insight into the current AI landscape, as well as future trends that we should expect. And then this went into the stage 3, which is where we quantified all of the findings and hypotheses to give us a robust and in-depth online survey, which included 14 markets. And again, we worked very closely with our colleagues from the different countries to ensure we captured local market nuances and a well-rounded point of view. And the first question we were looking forward to understanding was just how many people were using AI in Europe. And we were actually surprised that 22% of Europeans were already using AI in their day-to-day lives. And this is consciously using AI, so not the stuff that they don't realize they're interacting with. And then another 41% wanted to. So in the end, we had 2/3 of Europeans who were open to interacting with AI technologies during their retail journey. And what we found interesting, we expected the UK to be the most open, but this wasn't actually the case. It was the Spanish and Russians who were the most open to AI technologies, and the Dutch and the UK who were the most AI reluctant. And despite the UK having one of the highest usage rates, it was actually one of the countries that also had one of the highest reluctancy rates. So this was interesting for us. But we also wanted to see a little bit more about different audiences. So we looked at the barriers, and there was a common story across all of the European markets that we surveyed, which is that the main reluctancy was they didn't understand why they should be using AI, or they didn't trust how their data was being captured and collected for these AI experiences. But when we delved a little bit deeper, there was an interesting finding, which was between the younger and older audiences. The older audiences over-indexed on wanting to be taught how to use it. We think this is because they've lived through other digital technical revolutions before, whereas the younger audience claims they didn't need AI. And we think this is because this is the first technology that they haven't grown up with, making them AI immigrants. And we also wanted to see how the different needs of AI openness differed across different sectors. And in order to do this, we conducted a correspondence map with the 19 different retail sectors looking at the different AI attributes that really pulled them apart. And we found this really, really interesting because there wasn't a one-size-fits-all, but there are key differences that separate them quite nicely, from making personalized suggestions to doing it for them, so just automating, and then going more into the augmentation section, which is more personalized information or better information to make those decisions, or just surprising. And this is really being fueled by major players such as Amazon and Google and Uber, who are allowing consumers to get information or services in very easy, quick, seamless ways. And it's becoming there's becoming an increasing expectation gap as companies struggle to keep up with these demands, but AI can definitely help meet some of these emerging consumers' demands and some. The retail revolution has provided us with a wealth of information, taking into account both actual and claimed behaviors. And we have some general universal truths. So one of my favorites here is when we were looking at the qualitative and quantitative findings, we found something striking. When we embedded these technologies into consumers' lives, they had no problem pointing and telling us what they liked, didn't like, and how they expected these to evolve. Sometimes they had suggestions about where brands could add value in their lives that were overlooked. But in the quantitative findings, they had a really hard time telling us what they wanted. So consumers have trouble imagining these use cases, but can easily judge when exposed. So there's a huge opportunity for brands to actually inspire people around the functionality of AI. But we also have a lot of sector, audience, and market-specific findings as well. And to delve deeper into these differences, we have applied various statistical approaches. For example, we conducted a segmentation to understand the different attitudes towards AIs and how these groups vary across markets. This segmentation has given us useful information about the key concerns and needs that should be addressed when creating and promoting consumer-facing AI to the different people. And with all of this information, it has provided us empirical evidence to make confident strategic decisions about implementing and scaling consumer-facing AI. The Retail Revolution platform has given us a platform to promote a human-centric approach to AI planning, looking at opportunities to add value for people, both in terms of employees as well as consumers. It has also enabled us to provide a unique point of view for clients and prospects who are considering and building different AI solutions, and has powered a programmatic offering based on the segmentation I mentioned just earlier to tailor and target appropriate AI messages and touch points to the right audiences. I believe AI will have drastic impacts on current media channels in the future, and is becoming a more sophisticated media channel in its own right. So for us, this is very much the beginning, a starting point where we have benchmarks to track the progression of how people accept, understand, and trust AI. And we're very much open to exploring how we can evolve this research going forward. So that's my piece. Back to you, Alison.
Thanks very much, Chelsea. That's a really interesting case study. I think both thought-provoking and wide-ranging in terms of the ideas that it delivers for the industry across a variety of different areas. So thanks very much for that. And I'd now like to hand over to Paul from Oath to present the user insights from Another Reality project. Over to you, Paul.
Hi, can you hear me and see the screen?
We can, definitely, yes.
It's got like a sidebar thing on it, but anyway, thank you for the opportunity to share our research, user insights for Another Reality. This was the category for digital advertising formats, and it was conducted by Oath in Germany in partnership with Pilot, Vero, and Behaviour, who were part of the analytics team for this. So basically, I just want to run through the objectives of the research that we wanted to achieve. The first one was analyse the levels of attention that are paid to VR experiences when people are in those situations, and then to what extent are these immersive experiences working from a research and a sort of methodological perspective, and also to assess how brands can take full advantage of VR for optimal impact. So to achieve this and these lofty goals, we basically undertook an experimental study design in the virtual reality environment. And you can see on the right hand side, there were two environments that the consumer could go into. There was a virtual kitchen and a virtual living room. And within the smart home, we developed various elements that they could interact with. So we had 5 key elements that they could interact with. We had Genie, which was a digital assistant like Amazon Echo, and they could interact and carry out small tasks with that assistant. We had an augmented reality system for light control, a smart TV, a digital fridge where you could interact and buy things directly from the fridge. I've got a video which will hopefully work in a second and show this in a better extent, and also a augmented reality weather forecast, which had the real weather forecast for Hamburg, which is where the research was conducted. We had 338 consumers in the VR sessions. There were 4 test groups with different ad placements, which I'll go into more detail in a second, because we were able to break these down into at least 80 per cell, so we could analyze the different ad formats and how they interacted with each format as well. So when we think about the smart home experience, we started with this use of new technology for research in this environment and creating high levels of engagement, which is what we saw from the research. Nearly all respondents agreed that the experience was very impressive, and 79% said they forgot everything which was around them, which is also quite impressive. And from spontaneous mentions, half the audience stated that the apartment was authentic, even from a virtual reality perspective. I think these strong scores have ensured that we've got the users' full attention, and the experience allowed them just to interact, and play with the different technologies that we had in the environment, which gave us a good, true representation of the ad formats and the performance that was in there. So from this, these are the sort of placements that we had. When we think about this, there's lots of test cells that we could expose consumers to and different types of advertising, so we could identify the differences in levels of effectiveness across these different cells. All test cells were exposed to a coffee product placement and an AR travel banner, which had an ad next to it as well against the weather. And then we had 4 test cells in total. The first one, as I've just mentioned, cell 2 in addition saw the TV spot from a streaming provider. Cell 3, or test group 3, saw the TV spot and an audio sponsorship on Genie the assistant, and cell 4 saw the TV and audio spot and a digital banner next to the AR dialog box for selecting the experience. This gives you a bit more of a graphical detail of of who saw what. So it's test groups 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the left hand side. The average duration of this was 5 minutes. So I think this backs up the immersive feedback that we had received from the survey and throughout the study as well. At the end of the test, we carried out in-person interviews with the 338 to understand their experience of the apartment and the acceptance of these applications and unaided brand recall of the advertising brands. And again, from this, working with Vero to jointly to develop a behavioural VR analytics solution, which allowed us to understand per millisecond how this was linked, and it could be linked to the collected survey data. So here's a good test. This is what the consumer would have seen when they had the goggles and the headset on. So you can see from this that Genie it's obviously in German, but I haven't got the sound on here, but you can see as they look around the environment. Here you can see how they can choose different options with the cheese ad on the right, and the left hand side one is the one that alters the lighting experience, which you'll see in a second. So they can change the actual makeup of the lights. The next one, you can see the TV ad and the changing again the different colors in the environment, so you can see how interactive this actually was. And then I'll just take you to the kitchen, which is where we've got the refrigerator, the coffee placement which you saw, just spinning around at the second when they come back. And then we've got another genie here as well. And here they are able to, I'm just going to fast forward it slightly. They're able to purchase things from the fridge. You can see the coffee placement there. Genie is saying something. So, you know, it's very interactive and it's very, very clear as to what they can do here. So hopefully this gives you a clear understanding of how authentic and, you know, and clean the environment was and how we can get the effectiveness of advertising within this. So what's the brand potential here? When we think about brands and VR, there's a large opportunity for new connections. And with the survey results that we had, 91% think that virtual reality offers a brand new, completely different way of connecting with consumers. And 69% said that brands are seen as extremely innovative if they showcase VR to their customer base. Obviously, we'll talk about this a little bit later, I think, in terms of how, you know, the potential's there, but there does need to be adoption of this technology, but the enthusiasm is definitely there. So when we think about specifics in terms of ad effectiveness and the recall of different environments, the digital fridge had the strongest unaided recall in the follow-up survey of 93%. This was significantly higher than other placements, and you could hypothesize that this was due to the prominence of the fridge in the kitchen. But again, it proves that positioning and interaction of products is key, especially in the FMCG space. The fridge was also the most liked with 48% and had the least polarizing view. With the reminders that we had from Genie, the digital assistant, without the reminders, we had a 55% unaided awareness, but also a polarized view with 18% liking it the most and 14% disliking it the most. The least liked of overall was the weather forecast with 39%, and this is potentially due to the ad being placed right next to the smart home element. And when about brand recall, here we have the audio sponsorship reaching similar levels to the TV commercial at around 40%. This is, you know, this is a good option and a viable option to look at visual versus audio. We did much more analysis around this, around how audio performed versus TV and the others, which are not in this deck, but if you'd like to reach out, I can share those with you after the call. But product placement, as you could see with the coffee placement, it was really next to the fridge, so it was always in view, and that had the highest brand recall at 58%. So there are just a couple of points further that I would like to discuss here. And one is about consumers' homes as a future point of sale. And with the level of analytics that we could reach and achieve, we could overlay the interactions of the digital refrigerator for shopping behaviour. As we could see, consumers were able to interact with the fridge and make purchases. When consumers were exposed to the reality cheese banner in the living room, there was significantly more cheese in the virtual shopping cart as purchased at the refrigerator than the test cell who were not exposed to the banner. To substantiate this, we saw that the average frequency of purchasing cheese was identical between the groups. Again, the immediacy of this advertising shows that the follow-up to potential purchase creates a great argument for advertising, which at the point of sale is truly reflective of the exposure to the advertising. Another idea and another sort of takeaway that we had was around second screening and how attention is shifting as more ads are placed into the environment. Again, with a granular level of detail that we could analyse in the data, we were able to look at the differences between the test cells on the TV commercial. And as we introduced more ads, the level of success for the TV commercial diminished. With test group 2, we had the TV commercial only, alongside all the placements that all the other groups saw, and we saw 94% visibility for the TV commercial and 42% brand recall. As with test groups 3 and 4, as we introduced the audio sponsorship and the cheese banner, there was an average of around 11% decrease in visibility and 9% decrease in brand recall. This again proves the point that many ads vying for the attention of consumers, recall does really decrease as more are added. So that's just a brief overview of what we did in terms of the research. As you can see, it was very innovative. It worked really well, and I think that came across as the winner of the category. And some of the follow-up that we had with press coverage was debuted at De Mexico in 2017, and there was a booth specifically built for this, for the experience. And then attendees could actually, wear the headsets and actually experience this for themselves. It's been showcased in lots of press as well, including 6 articles in the German trade press and a 4-page spread in German research and results. And the Riot Studio team here, the content marketing an original content arm of Oath, which is Riot, are using this as part of their sales collateral now to prove out the VR experience and how successful it can be. So just finally, from one of our partners, Daniel Daimler, this is quite a good summary of the actual study. And he said, with our study, we can see an important pioneering step with regard to the possibility of analysing milliseconds of data to precisely link attention, behaviour, and survey-based data. And that's it. We can open it up to questions, and if there are any other points, then we can discuss those later.
So hopefully we've got Chelsea back on the line as well, and both of you there with me. Are you there, Chelsea?
Yes, I am.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. So thanks to both of you for those amazing case studies. I think, you know, they're just a great point to finish on for this year's research awards and presentations of the award winners. They're both really interesting. So if I could go back to Chelsea first of all, a question for you, Chelsea. So I think one of the really useful aspects of the Retail Revolution case study was it demonstrating how AI is being adopted and people's attitudes and understanding of it. Could you give us some idea of how you think the application of AI in marketing services is going to evolve?
Definitely. I think that it opens up many new ways to engage in services that can be adopted using it. But I believe it will be both AI's technical capabilities as well as how much people let it do that will really drive what we should expect in the future. And I think that really comes down to trust and added value that these applications provide. And OMD, we believe this will be achieved through the application of people and machines together to better reach and connect with consumers. So I think going forward, we can expect to see brands and their values increasingly expressed in the ways they use AI technology.
Okay, so it's like moving towards even more of a seamless experience than hopefully we would have with advertising at the moment then.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, great, great. Moving on to you, Paul, I think, you know, we haven't seen a lot of VR case studies, and yours really starts to give us an idea of the potential for brands. You know, I was feeling hungry while watching it, so I think, you know, that's going to become a really big thing. So how do you see it? You know, can you describe how you think this might start to be adopted into people's everyday lives and how that's going to progress?
Yeah, I think I mean, just even seeing, you know, the experiences that that we had with the research, you can start to see how the potential is that people can see, you know, how real benefits will work from this. But I think the first thing is the technology and the adoption needs to increase, you know, to make it into the mainstream. Yeah. I mean, another stat that we had was 72% agreed that VR would be like watching TV in the future. So I think as technology develops, there will be much more opportunities here. And you know, and in the US, there's going to be potentially 49 million users by 2019. Just another stat. But I think it can be used. It's used already in a lot of different areas. You know, anything from gaming. You know, the entertainment world use it significantly. Watching films. You know, you can go and visit places that you wouldn't even think about watching. There's training. You know, for doctors and lots of other things as well. You know, just those experiences that you wouldn't normally have, you can experience in those virtual reality worlds. And I think one day once it becomes a smaller headset and a smaller, you know, we've had Google Glasses, we've had lots of other technologies which haven't really taken off. You know, there will be one which does stick, and it will, you know, they'll probably make a lot of money, whoever that company is.
Yeah. Do you think that in terms of markets where this will develop more quickly, is it a question of, you know, bigger markets and more scale allow this to develop more quickly, or is it more about the price point of the headset, etc., in terms of in terms of getting the reach there, market by market, for people to get involved?
I think it's, like you say, it's the advancement of the technology, because the technology would be similar if you go to like the Snapchat glasses, or there's been developments. There's been a lot of interest in this, but then there's the privacy issues with the glasses. But I think from VR perspective, once the technology is smaller and like you said, it hits a certain price point, many more people will start to sort of get involved, and then there'll be more development. But I think I think maybe UK, US, may lead the charge, but once we have like a standard, I think it should develop really quickly throughout the world.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you did this this case study in Germany. So good to see that, I think.
Yeah, and I think obviously there's different different cultures, and it was an expensive study, so it would be good to replicate this in other markets. But I think we need the technology to be cheaper first.
Okay, great. So I think that we're nearly as I said earlier, we're at the end of our series of webinars on these winning case studies for this year, and it's probably time to look forward to next year, because we'll conduct our research awards and mixed awards again. So I'm wondering if you two have any top tips for future IAB Europe Research Award entrants. Chelsea, do you have any ideas for anyone listening in terms of how you shape an entry, and what's the key things to focus on?
So I guess for us, it was involving someone who wasn't close to the research. We spent over a year developing the findings from this research, so we got a little close to it, and just having that fresh perspective helped us point out the interesting bits of the story, and that really made I think our application a lot stronger.
Okay, that's really useful actually, and one we hadn't thought of when giving advice to people, so thanks very much for that. And how about you, Paul, because you've been through various years of research awards.
Yeah, judging.
So what perspectives do you have?
Yeah, I think I actually wrote down getting someone else to proofread it, but obviously as well as getting somebody who you can get like you can get someone who's who can write in the language that expresses it in the amount of words that you have to do. And I think the simple things are like keep your word count, get someone else to proofread it, ensure you answer all the categories, all the different, you can leave one blank. And I think then it's having the impact to back all this up. So like with the press coverage, etc., where it's been shared, and being innovative, or enhancing a new perspective or developing a new perspective does help, like the two winners have shown today. Yes.
Okay, great. That's really good. Yes, because I think an important point for those people who are entering is to be able to show what the benefit is going back into their organisation. So and I think there's a benefit in actually collecting your thoughts and entering in the first place, never mind whether you win or not. It kind of crystallises all of the perspectives on the case and what you as a company are getting out of it. So thanks very much, you guys, for speaking with us today, both Chelsea and Paul. It's really interesting to have you with us, and I hope you will be getting involved in the research awards again in the future. So just thank you. Just to remind everybody where you can access this and further information. So on our website, you can have a look at today's case studies in the research awards area. You'll be able to share the webinar recordings, which are going to be able to be available soon. And if you could complete the survey at the end of this webinar, we'll be really grateful as well. And if you have any more questions or need any more information about both 2018 and the forthcoming 2019, could you please address those questions to my colleague Marie-Claire, who will be helping us with further versions of the awards. So thanks very much everybody for today, and look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.